to the Poets Reacts. Obviously, we have still misplaced Mark. We're in the process of looking for him. But you know what? It's all good. It's all good because with us today as the fourth member of our panel, the amazing and one of the newest members of the Poetry Global Network, Nick Paleologos.
Yes, Nick!
Hey, Nick, welcome aboard, man.
You said my last name right, and I love it, Lawin. Ah, yes. That was very professional. I loved it.
We're gonna have a good show, y'all.
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Hey, Marrisa.
Hey, Lawin, are you gonna introduce yourself so we can go around?
Oh, well, my name is right there. It says Lawin.
That's the wrong corner.
Yeah. Lawin, I'm a writer from Manila, and well, until Mark shows up again, I got the guitar. So
awesome. Yay, Lawin! All right, welcome everyone to the Poets Reacts. I am Marrisa. I'm a poet, spoken word artist, mother, and publisher in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Make sure please use the chat. We love talking to you while we're doing our show. So ask questions, have some comments. We love your input, your insight, your fun jokes. If you have jokes, you got jokes. We love jokes. All right. But they got to be in poetry form. Just kidding. Anyways, also make sure that you like, share, subscribe, follow everything that is the Poetry Global Network and the Poets Reacts. We are just blowing up stuff. We are everywhere the internet is. We are Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Some more things coming soon. As I wave my magic wand, Nick P.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Nick Paleologos, as Lawin has pronounced my last name correctly, and I'm so proud of Lawin for that. I am a poet, spoken word artist, cosplayer from New Jersey, coming to your ears. I will be having a book coming out very soon with Red or Green Books, so hop onto that. You can see more of my information over there, and if you want to, subscribe, comment to the Poetry Global Network, like Marrisa said. And for me personally, if you like my stuff, The Real Nick P on IG, that's where you can find me. Kemlyn.
Such shameless promotion. I love that. Bring on that energy, Nick. Love it. Hi, everyone. I am Kemlyn, and I am your Singapore, Arizona connection. And I am a multidisciplinary artist. What the heck is that anyway? It means that I like to mess around with everything. So you give me visual art, spoken word, written word, whatever, you name it, I'll play with it. All right, without further ado, please send in the poem.
okay, before we go into the poem, you have to know that what we do here at the Poets Reacts, in case it's the first time you're tuning in, is every episode we get exposed to a poem we have not been previously exposed to. We go through it, we react. Yeah, it's that simple, and that's why the title is what it is. Anyway, let's go. Here's the piece. In the old scratched cheap wood of the typing stand, there is a landscape veined with which only a child can see, or the child's older self, a poet, a woman dreaming when she should be typing the last report of the day. If this were a map, she thinks, a map laid down to memorize because she might be walking it. It shows ridge upon ridge, fading into hazed desert, here and there, a sign of aquifers, and one possible watering hole. If this were a map, it would be the map of the last age of her life, not a map of choices, but a map of variations. On the one great choice. It would be the map by which she could see the end of touristic choices, of distances blued and purpled by romance, by which she would recognize that poetry isn't revolution, but a way of knowing why it must come. If this cheap, mass-produced wooden stand from the Brooklyn Union Gas Company, mass-produced yet durable, being here now, is what it is, yet a dream map, so obdurate, so plain, she thinks the material and the dream can join, and that is the poem, and that is the late report.
That is definitely 21st century. Just saying.
Yeah.
I would tease Mark Fishbein about that.
Mark, we miss you. Definitely miss you.
So we would call it
Can
the
we
kind
have
of
the poem in
poetry
the
that's
chat?
too young for Mark to date, right?
It's wait, but he was alive in 1914, right? Remember the last
So wait, it's after the
was alive
telegram,
in
right?
1914. So maybe. All right. So I loved the style of this poem. I love very much the art, how the antiqueness of it. It sounded to me like I was going into a museum looking back on history a little bit. So that was very cool. The way some of the words they used are not too antiquated. So I would think possibly World War II era, where we were making a lot of steel, when we had the economy in that regard was going. Maybe not, maybe even pre-World War II, because I'm thinking it's a man, but if it's a man, he's pretty insightful. But talks about the watering hole, hazed desert here, signs of aquifers. So it could even be pre-1900s. Is there going to the gold rush out into the west, really kind of moving out to there. But then they talk about the gas. Where's that line? Brooklyn Union Gas Company. So that kind of puts me into that, what I might be World War II era studying, perhaps like the gold rush. So it could be an inception, layers upon layers of time here. Obdurate is not a word you really see that much anymore. And that is the late report, which could be a telegraph. It could be a radio broadcast. Again, very World War II era, 1940s. So,
Right.
yeah, props on the use of obdurate, right?
When I was looking at the painting, when I was painting, I just felt like I was doing a spaghetti western, like the Wild West a little bit, I just felt like it was a postcard from beyond time, and also in our frontier in the U.S. So I'm a resident of Arizona, so I felt the desert winds and the aquifers and the dryness. It just felt very dry and crusty, and I almost wanted to hear cows mooing, and a cattle drive, and and yet there's this woman here at a table typing, and she's dreaming of the Wild West and adventure and writing a poem, and a poem with her report merging together, which is kind of romantic.
I don't like what they said, though. Poetry
Time out. I want to hear Jersey Jesus' take on this one, because there's Brooklyn.
I'll get in trouble for saying that, though. I don't know if Lacan has approved that sub name for him or not.
I mean, I have about 1 million different nicknames, and I'm working on a nickname poem as we speak. So, I mean, that's one of the most common nicknames I've ever heard in my life. So, I mean, and I love it personally. So, I mean, you can call me that or call me the cult leader, whatever. I felt that this was, I mean, it's whatever, at this point, like everyone has a nickname for me at some point. So, but anyways, the poem. I kind of felt it was very clumped together as I was reading. I was kind of a little straining myself a little bit. The words are really cool. I like the way how it's styled and everything like that, but it just felt like it was very clumped together. So I'm trying to like focus on that a little bit and everything, and it was a little hard. I could definitely tell this was definitely from after the telegraph era, but definitely before like we had landline phones. So I would say about 1930s. I want to say this sounds like about 1930s, and it was written by. I want to say it was written by a man, but like I liked it in general in terms of the words, but the way how it was structured kind of made my eyes strain a little bit. But I mean, I felt it was pretty cool. Poem.
Yeah, no. I'm in general agreement with the rest of you that it feels like a time capsule. Yeah, you can almost feel the patina on this photograph, right? But what caught me the most is this whole the writing seems to have come late in her life. You know, I love the embedded sadness in the fact that her maps are no longer about horizons and options, but really just about variations on one great choice, which in this case it seems to be the writing. And that's the sad and also sometimes glorious thing about this thing we do, right? Sometimes we have no choice but to write, and I like that. I like that about it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have a comment here. Love the sound effects, guys. That's called the traffic of the third world. And I do say it sounds very obdurate. No. But the piece itself, it's one of those ones that I tend to get so envious about because I'm not that good at describing stuff in a very photographic manner. And this really does it. I hear Nick when he says it seems dense and hard to unpack, but for me that's part of the pleasure of it. I mean, sometimes you want to chew a bit on something rather than just potato chip it down, you know. So
Right.
it works for me that way.
This is kind of like a Fishbein thing too, though. This is it reminds me. Some of us don't have the
Mark Fishbein.
pleasure. Yeah, calling Mark Fishbein. If you ever get a chance to read Mark's poems, they are so photographic, and they capture scenes and landscapes and like the blued and purpled by romance. This is so him, you know.
He's
Okay,
missing all
here's
the
the
good
thing.
stuff.
What I think someone's going to try to do is pull off on us that it's actually Mark's stuff.
Oh
And
my
he's gonna-
God!
No, it's not. It's not his writing. He would use obdurate, but it's not his because he would never say poetry is not revolution. Like that's the only thing that I really don't agree with at all. But you have to remember this was written maybe World War II time, so you know in that era, perhaps even during so maybe there wasn't a lot of power, and perhaps this is a woman if they don't feel like their poetry is going to help the revolution or it's going to change or your words matter. But definitely when they say where is it, I just had it pulled up and then I hit the thing. I hit the thing too much lately. So where's there it is. By which she would recognize that poetry isn't revolution, but a way of knowing why it must come. Poetry must come because the revolution is coming, because we're still talking about poems today that were valid 100 years ago from trauma that happened 100 years ago. That is why poetry is revolutionary, right? And I'm gonna hit my computer and like go crazy,
Yeah,
but
okay. I know you feel strongly about that. Okay, but see, even the way even the way you explain it, poetry is revolutionary, yes, but that doesn't make it the revolution itself.
Why not? Freedom of speech. Did you know in Brazil you're not allowed to sell books? Why is poetry not a revolution? Why is literature, the self-expression, freedom of speech, freedom of empowering and educating and learning and growing? Why is that?
It can definitely instigate it. I think it can trigger it. Yeah. For me, I see poetry, literature as a whole, as an oracle of it. But I think inevitably the revolution is flesh and blood. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little.
Do you mind if I chime in on this one a little bit?
Sure, Nick, go
Let me
ahead.
chime in. So you have a point there, Lawin, when it comes to revolution. It becomes flesh and blood at one point. Yes, it does become flesh and blood, but always has to be a starting point to where the revolution begins. So usually it starts with good old pen, good old paper, put it down the thoughts, you start like spreading it around and everything, and then that's how it happens,
Yeah.
And
That's
I think
like-
there's a little bit of irony here too. The fact that she is saying it isn't revolution actually might be saying it is a revolution. It's the seed of it is there, and it says, but it's a way of knowing. At first, before we can start any freaking thing, we have to know ourselves and know.
Jump into your American history, for example. Samuel Adams, right? He instigated the war with the United Kingdom through his writing. He wrote a lot of expository stuff, which led to the East End, the Boston Tea Party, which led to the demonstrations on taxation without representation and all that, right? It was the harbinger of revolution. So that's the only point I'm trying to make. I'm not actually making less of the poet, which, by the way, was written by Adrienne Rich in 1987. This is called Dreamwood.
Wow, much later.
1987. But I wonder how old she was in 1987. Like, what year was she born? It would be interesting to know how old these poets are when that year is, because she could have absolutely lived through World War II. She could be drawing off of memories from her earlier years. So it would be very interesting. Watch, I can Google it.
So the comment is
Google's not a paid sponsor yet, but they will be.
So this is a comment. She was called one of the most widely read and influential poets of the second half of the 20th century, and was credited with bringing the oppression of women and lesbians to the forefront of poetic discourse. So this was a seed for her revolution. So I mean, this is like the cocooning that happens.
So here, this is what Wikipedia says. Again, Wikipedia is not a paid sponsor, but they will be someday. Wikipedia says Adrienne Cecile Rich was an American poet, essayist, and feminist. She was called one of the most widely read and influential poets of the second half. Of course, this is all Kemlyn said. So she was born May 16th, 1929. So yes, she would have been in her 20s, early 20s, when World War II is going on. She died March 27th, 2012 in Santa Cruz, California. She won the National Book Award for Poetry, the Lambda Literary Award for Lesbian Poetry, and click the more button. There's so many things. The latest thing that she won was the Lannan Lifetime Achievement Award in 1999. So yes, she was around during those.
So I'm really grateful for her because
Wikipedia.
I think it's really important that we honor our predecessors, especially as we as women poets have our say in our day, thanks to the revolutions that our sisters went before us, who were courageous enough to say, "Fuck this, we're gonna speak out our truths." Oops,
and so many of those women and those pioneers are still around today in our poetry community. People like Rusty Rose and Jane Spoken Word have
Donna Schneider
for all of us to come afterward, publicly.
Speaking of revolutions, guys, start your own revolution. Pick up your pen, put it on paper, write your poem, send it over.
Paint a picture. Paint something.
If you're drawing or painting or creating art with Kemlyn during these, we would love to see your artwork. We will show it. We can show it on the screen. We can share it. I would be so excited to see what y'all come up with when we're reading these poems. We definitely thank you. I want to thank our very awesome special guest host, Nick P. You got to come back. We got another recording if you want to stick around. We'd love to have you for one more. If you got to go, that's cool, but we'd love to have you. Thank you so much for stopping by, my friend. Thank you, my esteemed colleagues, Lawin and Kemlyn. We are missing you, Mark, but only a little bit. So don't stay gone too long, because the missing you gets sad, and then we get sad. We don't want to be sad. All right, remember, as we react to poem. Oh, wait, first of all, please like, share, subscribe, and follow to all of our things at Poetry Global Network. We are everywhere, everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, other things coming soon. Yes, there you go, Lawin. All of them. And so definitely please like, share, subscribe, and follow to our channels. And remember, as we react live to poems in front of you that we've never heard, read, seen, or experienced, we do hope you take action with your pen so that maybe someday we'll be reacting to your poem. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you so much, everyone, for having me. Love y'all.
Love you too.